Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie, and I'm here with my husband Jim. It is Sunday evening, and we are sitting in our living room talking about artificial intelligence. And we would like to welcome you to the podcast to listen to us talk about AI. So, we are going to spend the next 25 to 30 minutes talking about the latest things in the news and just some interesting correlations that we're making about what we are actually doing with AI Ed Pro and artificial intelligence. So we are going to start with a news article.
First, we're going to start with the fact that it's 71 degrees at the 1st of March at 8 o'clock at night.
It is very warm.
It was over 80 degrees today.
Yes.
And it's been 90 in February.
You know, I am happy about this because our daughter is actually getting married in about 14 days. And right now, it looks like the temperature for her wedding is supposed to be low 70s. So I'm hoping it stays this way and we don't get another cold front coming.
But you know how Texas weather is.
Yes, give it a few minutes, it will change. So
first news article is about what's on everybody's mind this year.
Elections. We have elections are coming up in November here, of course, in the United States, but they also have elections that are going to be happening. The European Parliament elections are coming up. And so one of the things that they're doing over there is they're launching a dedicated team.
Meta's doing it.
Meta is launching a dedicated team to combat disinformation and harms that are generated by artificial intelligence, specifically geared toward the elections.
I'm curious how they're going to spot whether it was generated by AI versus not. About all they can really do is use some kind of tools to comb through all the posts on Meta, but how do you know the post was generated by AI?
Well, I guess
they're just looking for the bad stuff and then checking.
Well, what the article actually talks about is that they're using fact checkers. They're disinformation, they're using actual partners across the EU to find and rate the content as factual versus not factual.
So they're using actual humans.
Yes, they are. They're using actual humans to fact check. They're using keyword detections.
I suspect they've got a combination of AI-based tools plus humans both.
Yes.
To it's sort of like that website Snope, where they try to prove if something's true or false.
Yes. Is it Snope or Snoop?
I thought it was Snope.
I have no idea, but I know what you're talking about. It is they're making sure that the images are factual. They're making sure that the content is factual, and then they're letting people know.
Yeah, or they're at least pulling them down. It's going to be a game of whack-a-mole on a global scale to do that kind of stuff.
And just think if they release the Sora
with the videos,
stuff before
I don't think they're
going
to release that before November.
I would hope that they would wait on that one.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. The parliament elections are this summer, and so they've got their big elections coming up before we do here. Mm-hmm. And there's more than 80 countries going to the polls and elections. So apparently there's a lot of elections going on around the world. And Meta and 19 other tech companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all these are trying to figure out how to beat this problem.
They're pledging to clamp down on AI content. And I think it's really interesting. One of the things that I did see is that the influence of AI on voters had already come under scrutiny in a number of elections, and that they actually have the former prime minister of Pakistan was put in jail because he was caught using AI-generated speeches to rally his supporters.
Well, I think, which is that article that we were going to talk about, we decided not to talk about it too much, but data lineage. I think data lineage is going to be a thing in the future. You watch.
Your information is.
It's just like they track cattle. Mm-hmm. They want to know from the time the cattle, the cow is, born up until the time that it's a hamburger meat. Well, that's what they do.
Oh my goodness,
that's what they do. But nonetheless, they track it through the whole process using tools that are probably going to be the similar tools.
And they probably do it with more than just cattle. They probably do it with other.
They do it
things.
with chicken eggs. They do it with
that's
fruit.
coming up. Yes.
That's right. If you're vegetarian, you don't like to talk about
Let's
cows.
talk about
Let's talk
fruit.
about fruit. They still got to know where it comes from, and
Yes.
that way, if someone does get sick, they can track it back to the
Lettuce,
source.
wisteria outbreaks. I mean, they
Yes.
have all sorts of things in
So data
place. So they're going to
lineage.
start tracking your data
That's
when it
correct.
comes to
All
whether
right.
it's
What's
original.
next?
So speaking of politics and elections, yes, it has finally happened. The Democrats and the Republicans have
Agreed on
agreed
something.
on something. They have put together a
Bipartisan task force.
it's
Which,
always about a task
well,
force.
those are easy for Republicans. You don't actually, Republicans and Democrats can't agree on anything. So take the things that you can agree on, which I guess is a part of negotiation, because there's not a lot of current consequences for it. So you make a task force because that's studying things in the
In the
future.
future. There's 12 members of Republican, 12
Yeah.
members of Democratic. They are using two people out of California that have
Yeah.
computer science type backgrounds.
I like the pedigree of the people that they've chosen. What I don't like is that they both have written articles about the threat of AI,
And not the
and
possibilities.
what I'm afraid is they're going to spend a lot of time focused on how to limit what it can do and not enough time focused on what it can do to make things better, which we talk about a little bit later. One of the things that you can do with AI that's a positive thing
Yes.
versus them focus so heavily on the negative. But anyway, one of the people has a master's degree in AI. That's great. Owns a video game development company. That's the Republican. And then the Democrat, um, apparently, I don't know what his actual credentials are, other than he wrote a bill to regulate AI. I don't know if he actually has AI credentials or not, but either way, I hope they focus on the good as well as the bad, because you can choke it off in a hurry with, or let me put it this way, you can choke it off for the small companies in a hurry. The big guys,
It's already there.
they've got the money to keep pushing forward. And government regulation, what do they call? There's a term they use for it when you build a wall based on government regulations that you can't get around. I can't remember what the term is.
Yeah. I don't remember what it is either.
Anyway, so we'll see how that goes. At least they agreed on something. Let's celebrate the very, very, very small victories when the Republicans and Democrats actually agree on doing something.
Yes, and you can find that information, more information about it in NBC. It's an NBC News article,
Yes,
so you
yeah,
can find it there.
we've been forgetting lately to tell where we got this stuff from. We probably should remember to do that.
Yes, I agree.
The Verge, so we got this next one.
Yes, and it is about how Microsoft is partnering with Mistral.
Why does that matter?
You tell me why it matters.
I can tell you why that matters. Because Mistral, it's a French company. They have been doing a lot with open source. I have one of their AI's language models running on my Mac, and I use it for testing and doing some tools. Well, they came out with their latest model, which everybody was excited about, except they decided not to open source it. They've decided it's going to be closed source. Coincidentally, it's going to run on Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud servers, for people who do want to use it.
Now,
So,
closed source basically means you purchase it.
well, it means you can't see. No, it's not just that is correct, yes, but it's not just about that. When you close something off, they can't see any of the weights, any of the data. They don't know where the training data comes from. Open source in the truest form means that you can check that the validity of that AI. I mean, other researchers can use it. They can play with it. They can look for security holes in it. There's downsides to it. The fact is, Mistral has to make money. I mean, we live in a capitalistic world. We're not doing this out of benevolence. So at some point, they have to do something. They're getting investment money from people, and they got to pay the salaries of the programmers. I get it. And I get, as long as they keep doing, and as long as they don't do what OpenAI did. OpenAI promised, which Elon Musk is suing them for it now. He's going to lose, but I kind of agree with his idea. He's suing them because their original mission, which he invested in, was that what they did would benefit mankind, and it would be open source. OpenAI was supposed to be open AI.
Clever how that word open is in
now
there,
it's closed AI. They should change their name because there's nothing open about what they do. And at first, they were trying to sell it to people as, well, we're doing it because we're protecting people. Because if we open it up and everybody sees how we do it, then people can copy it and it'll be bad for humanity. So they weren't doing it for the billions of dollars. They were doing it because it was protecting us from ourselves. In the meantime, I love these open source guys because without them, I couldn't do what I think is important, which is run models locally. The fact that I can run a model on my Mac, which only has 8 gigs of RAM in it, but it's got an M2 processor, and I can have, remember, we built Agnes originally for the school, and Agnes was an onboarding tool that we built for the school. I've got Agnes running on my Mac with an open source large language model.
All local.
Everything is local. The data is local. The vector database, everything that I used before, which I used in the cloud, is now all local. Now,
That's a big thing for like security.
Well, it's also, it just makes people feel better to know that some things can be local. But it also, for school districts on a limited budget, I'm hoping I can run it cheaper because those token charges add up. Anyway, so people are not happy with Mistral, but hopefully they won't become closed source completely like OpenAI or closed AI did. So here's one of those positive things. This is in the Canadian Mining Journal. Why do I read the Canadian Mining Journal, you ask?
I have no idea.
Because everybody
you come up with some of the weirdest things that you read. I'm like,
everybody reads the Canadian Mining Journal. I've actually been interested in what AI in other industries. I track it by different industries. This article I came across because I actually am interested in the mining industry. Don't give me a hard time. I think it's cool. Anyway, they used an AI software to discover platinum group elements and nickel, copper, iron sulfides in New South Wales, Australia. And the statistic I was talking about earlier that I thought was crazy with you was San Francisco-based Earth AI says it made mineral deposit discoveries in 2 out of 3 tries.
Hang on. 2 out of 3, which is 66.
That's 66.6%.
Something like
is that the right math?
Basically, I think, yeah.
With an industry average of 0.5%.
So that's a big difference. Good improvement. I mean, that's an amazing improvement.
They say it works 100 times faster and is more cost effective than traditional methods for finding this stuff.
So they're throwing in a bunch of data.
They got a ton of data, and it's all about patterns. And they've trained these, probably one of these open source models that we were just talking about. They probably brought one in and they trained it with their own data. And just like I'm trying to do right now, I'm about to do, it's called fine tuning. When you take one of these models, there's 2 different ways that you can make these models work on your data. One of them's called RAG, which is what Agnes was, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which means you've got all your own data. And when you ask it a question, it uses your data out of a vector database as a way of building the context that it then sends to the language model to answer questions, which is a great way to do it. But if you really, really want to speed things up and get it more accurate and get rid of hallucinations, you not only do RAG, but you also fine tune. When I first started Agnes, which has been just about almost exactly a year ago when I created Agnes, and right about this time was when I first got it working. This time last year.
The
first cut of it. The alpha version.
Right.
But anyway, we were using OpenAI 3.0 or whatever it was at the time. But the main thing is I thought you were supposed to start with fine tuning because I didn't know the difference. And so that's the first thing I did was start trying to generate the fine tuning. I was not successful at that, which is why I moved to the RAG model. But with these models, these open source models have come out, fine tuning supposedly works really, really well. So I think that's what a lot of these companies are going to use, and they can't afford to develop these things on their own from scratch typically. So I think it's a great thing. I hope they're using open source models. So anyway, that was a good one. Now we're going to go back to the negative again. We like to do positive.
Is it really negative? I think that
it is sort of to me.
We're going to pop over and talk about what we talk about the most, which is artificial intelligence in education. And what I found really interesting about this is that basically it's a survey that is a bunch of superintendents. It's a survey that was done of superintendents. I think they said there was like
it was done from November 27th, 2023 to January 10th, 2024
so
by
just
148. This is in the journal.com, by the way.
148 superintendents in 39 different states took the survey. And they said that, they had been in their job for anywhere from 1 to 10 years.
70% had been in their job from 1 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the district makeup was suburban, 52%, rural, which is what we are, 37%.
Okay. And
They,
it talks about an increase in job satisfaction for superintendents and things like that. But the number one thing it talked about was that 97% of the superintendents felt that schools should implement and teach responsible use of AI in their classrooms. 97%, that's a big percentage that says that they have to teach students about artificial intelligence. But 37% said they actually have plans to do so, which is that leaves 60% of those superintendents who think it's important, but said they're up to their ass in alligators.
language.
Well, I wrote an article called
Yeah, but you
that.
use little asterisks and
Yes, I
stuff.
did. And that's okay. We're adults here. I can say a curse word on a podcast. It They're up to their A in alligators, and 60% of them are saying that there are other more pressing challenges in education right now.
First of all, I have a couple of issues. I have a couple of issues here. First of all, the 97% that feel schools should implement and teach responsible use. That's not what I'm looking for. The problem is that the only thing they can agree on is that they don't understand it that well, and responsible use, in our experience, always comes down to cheating.
Yes.
It's
They
always
want the
about
students to know how to
know
use it and how not to use it.
mainly how not to use it.
Right.
And so when you talk about that 97%, it sounds like, okay, they're all in agreement that AI is important. But in reality, my guess is, based on what we've seen, they're all in agreement that you need to make sure students don't use it to cheat, not the value add or how it's going to change or anything like that. The 37% that don't have a plan, or that are currently have a plan to do so, in other words, teach responsible use, the other percentage need to call
60%.
us
Yes.
because
I agree.
we could teach them.
Call AI Ed Pro.
Call
Book your
AI Ed
meeting
Pro,
now.
and we will come teach you. What I thought was also interesting is that you and I had already found an earlier version of this study, and we used it in our presentations.
Yes, our last presentation, and that's why we're going to spend the next
That was the one that I got. I changed at the last minute, right before a conference.
Stressed me
and stressed you out a lot.
So we're going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about this. So what they're saying, that 60% who say that there's other challenges that they're having to deal with right now that are affecting public education or just education in general. And those are national concerns. I mean, these are 39 different states is where these surveys came from.
This is not just Texas.
This is not just Texas.
Particular
this is
state.
National concerns.
Yes.
Those concerns are chronic student absenteeism.
Yes.
Which COVID exacerbated, but 63% of these superintendents say that chronic absenteeism is a huge deal when it comes to educating a student. And it's true. If you're not there, you're not getting an education.
I'll get on my soapbox for 1 second, then I'll get back off again. It would certainly help students want to come to school if we didn't see articles every other day bashing public education and demanding this, that, or the other. When parents are told that public education is not good, and they're parroting that, or the kids are parroting what the parents are saying, it's kind of hard. And parents are saying it's okay not to go to school because public education is horrible. And anyway, I digress. So
77% of the superintendents cited a major issue with disruptive student behavior.
Yes.
So you're looking at your classroom management issues.
Yeah, you're looking at students who think it's okay to punch the teacher and film them. Yes.
That kind of thing.
That is very disruptive.
Yes. 76% of them basically talked about student mental health.
Yes.
And how that's a huge problem. Of course, they blame it on social media and things like that.
Well, it is difficult for, especially they talk about social media having a worse impact on girls than boys. But when you see these perfect, curated, things that goes on, influencers, that's one aspect of it. Then the other aspect of it is that it's too easy. Bullying, and there's nothing the schools can do about it, really. when you talk about online bullying. And we get asked in the technology department constantly to try to figure out if they're doing it, are they using school equipment to do it at least, because then we have a leg to stand on. If they're doing it on their phones at home, we have no leg to stand on. But anyway.
The other ones, of course, is not just student absenteeism, but you have staff absenteeism.
Yeah, I've heard
And
that
you
one.
also have staffing shortages, which all of that kind of goes back to onboarding and making sure your staff has trained and make sure they have the support that they need to do their jobs, making sure that you're backing up your staff. We actually had somebody make a comment to us today.
Yes.
Another example of someone who had a relative
Got into
that
teaching.
got into teaching, was going to love it, got a degree in English to do so, taught for 2 years, had an incident with a student, and
walked away.
Never going back. Never going to go back, because
Yeah, we know somebody like that too.
And so you're talking, your staff mentality is just as important as your student mentality, your mental health of your staff.
I think that as a society, and I'm not going to get on that soapbox long, we're going to have to put value on education before kids are going to educate it. But I also think that as a society, and this is where AI comes into this, I do think that education has to change. I don't think that you can continue in a world where you're drowning in information. You can continue to stand up in front of a classroom, lecture, write on a board, give worksheets for people to take home. They do their worksheets. They break. I mean, that paradigm that's, I can walk into classrooms today or talk to teachers today. They teach the same way they did when I was there. I've been out of school for a couple of years. And, when my daughter went to college in computer science, a long time after I got my degree in computer engineering.
Let's think about that. You got your degree in computer engineering in 1991.
I graduated in, but remember, I was a long-term student because I went part-time.
But that's okay. 1992 is when you finished your degree.
That's correct.
Rachel got her degree in 2020.
2020, wasn't it? Or 2019? She got out of high school in 2016.
Right? 2020. Well, so she got her degree in May after COVID hit. COVID hit in 2020.
Yes, and when I looked at her, when she started college, right, she got out 2016, 2017, I got her syllabus and all the stuff, her information for her classes. It was identical to what I took. I mean, the course descriptions were the same. How they taught it was the same. When I helped her with her homework, she was literally writing the same code that I wrote.
You're looking at 25 to 30 years later.
Yes. And then Jared's in school now, our youngest, and he's writing the same code that I wrote. Mm-hmm. We're still writing Hello World. We're still teaching the same way. And kids are not the same anymore. They've got all this available information.
Let's talk about that. So one of the things that we talked about was chronic absenteeism.
Yes.
Why do kids not go to school?
Because their parents don't make them? Is that not the right answer?
That's not the right answer. Kids don't go to school or don't want to go to school. Lack of engagement.
Yes. Did you want to go to school, though? When you were in school, did you love going to school?
Not every single day, but I enjoyed the social aspect of going to school most of the time, and I enjoyed the knowledge and the events that I was doing. Like when I was doing theater, I enjoyed going for theater. When I had the friends,
something that engaged
I enjoyed going for the friends. I didn't have social interaction via social media, video games.
So things have changed.
Things have changed.
Yes.
So the school system wants you to come to school because you're part of the football team, or you're part of the cheer team, or you're part of the theater team.
That is part of the engagement.
And that is part of that engagement process. And I think that a lot of the kids who are going to school that aren't absent, that 50% that go, are those kids that are involved in all of that. It's that 50% that isn't involved.
How do you engage with those?
That can't find their niche. So how do you engage those? And you are competing with things that are engaging
video games
at home.
A big one is video games.
Huge one.
We see it all the time. We hear parents complain about it. As a matter of fact, we had a parent the other day that was upset because their kids, borrowed mama's credit card and bought video game stuff. So it's one of those things where, and that's not even the first time I've seen that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, our son did that once. He bought some stuff, remember? Some
I
video
remember.
game stuff. So that kind of behavior with video games is not that uncommon.
So how does AI help that?
Well, we talked about that a lot. I mean, the thing is that teachers are fighting an uphill battle. That's the whole point. Is they're fighting an uphill battle to try to capture kids' attention. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it without the help of very different tools than what they've used in the past. That's why AI can be helpful. We talk about it in terms of the teacher doing stuff like, using AI to help them generate lessons. And a lot of people focus on that. But like the guy that was on our podcast last week, um,
Kent's, Mr. Kent's,
Mr. Kent's,
Mike.
he found a way to engage the kids through character AI, and he built these characters that they could interact with about Shakespeare, that kind of thing.
Catcher in the Rye. That's what he was
It was
talking
Catcher in
about.
the Rye.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing about that is he even commented
After one time,
he asked the kids, would you be excited about doing it again? And they said, no, we've done that.
Yeah.
That's the point. Trying to capture their attention and engage them takes a different mentality.
So as a teacher, what I'm looking at doing is, okay, I have a lesson plan that's a love lesson that I've done 5 years in a row. I'm going to have to go to an AI, put in that love lesson and say, give me 5 new ways to engage my class when I have to make it to where it's so engaging they're not going to want to go home and play a video game. And I really think an AI could come up with that.
Well, and the thing is, you have to be careful, and this is the problem I have with most of these tools that everybody's starting to buy into to use AI in the classroom. All they're using AI for is to generate better lesson plans, to generate better worksheets, to translate them, that kind of thing. I think you and I talk a lot about it, how to use AI to generate different voices, different characters, videos, translation of your lecture to another language where it's still you talking. You're talking about using AI in a whole different way, not just using it to do what you've been doing for 2,500 years, which is get up in front of the room and lecture.
So the situation that I'm in, though, is I'm sitting here listening to you, and you're the technical person.
I always focus on tech.
I'm the education person.
Yes.
I'm going, oh my God, add it to the pile. That's what we always talk about. Add it to the pile. Now you're telling me that I need to take AI. I need to figure out how to use it to translate. I need to do a video. I need to have myself in front of it. Okay. What I'm saying is that AI can also help get rid of some of the administrative things that I'm doing. A lot of the administrative things that I'm having to do, that's going to free up time
for you to do what you love doing.
Then do what I love doing, which is
figuring out how to engage.
Making the relationship with the student. If I have a relationship with my student and I have enough time to make that connection to that student, it is going to help that student with chronic absenteeism.
Yes.
It's going to help that student with mental health because they're going to have someone that they know cares about them. It's going to help that student with
it's also going to
behavior.
And when the behavior gets better, the staff doesn't miss so many days for their own mental health.
Correct.
It's a cascading effect, we hope, to where the things can get better. The thing that keeps me in education, the thing that keeps you in education, because I can retire soon, but what keeps me going, what's kept me going for almost 20 years now in it, is watching the good teachers, the ones that make a true difference, like you did with some of the kids that have come back and talked to you. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me excited about the technology, because I'm always trying to find a new tool to make it easier for them to spend the time doing the things that's the most important, which is what you just said. Engaging with the student in new and creative ways.
Building a relationship.
And building that relationship. That's why teachers are important. That's why AI can't replace teachers, ever. Not in my opinion.
I agree.
They need that human connection. The kids do. They need those teachers. When I see those teachers in the hallway talking to those kids, that's that connection. AI can get rid of all that other load that they have, plus give them new tools to engage with the students. Yes. And I'm very passionate about that.
We are out of time. We had something else we were going to talk about, but we're going to have to push that till next Sunday at our couch.
That was a good one too.
We're out of time.
It was about a podcast.
Okay, I understand.
Never mind.
We're going to have to push it.
Okay.
So we will let everyone go. We hope that y'all have a marvelous week this week, and we will be back next Monday talking about how we might not be human. We might actually be an AI.
I've been accused of that recently.
Until then, Have a great week.